As a trustee, I don't think it is customary to be turned into a speaker, particularly in front of all the brilliant speakers from all over the world. Well, Juan has asked me to speak on the Singapore experience, and I'm glad to do so, because what's happening in Singapore is quite unique. We are a very small country. Some people would describe Singapore as the little red dot. In terms of area, we have got about 700 square kilometers, but we do reclaim land. So over the last 30 years or so, I think the land area in Singapore has expanded by easily 11 to 15%. You may say this is adversity. We have to create more land, which is a factor of production. But in this world, is land, capital, the only factors of production? Or do we need to look at other things? Well, today I'm happy to share with you the Singapore story, how we have evolved the economy from a labor-intensive stage to finally a much more knowledge, innovation, and creative intensive economy. When we first started in 1960, Singapore was very poor. If you were to look at the per capita income, it was only $400. Many people, many families had to share one room. The entire family of 5 to 6 living in one room, which may be only 300 square feet. So Singapore was a poor country. What did we have? We had some labor, but not very well educated. When Singapore became independent, we decided that we must industrialize the country, because unemployment was extremely high, 15%. It is only through industrialization, through the employment creation arising from foreign direct investment, can we then solve the unemployment problem. So we embark on a series of programs to enhance, to build our infrastructure. We attracted multinational companies, Hewlett-Packard, Intel, and so on and so forth, in order to generate the jobs that we need. Any job, simple job, for the sake of helping people to make a living. Then in the 70s, we moved a little bit up by embracing the more skill-intensive industries. Subsequently, in the 80s, when labor became more expensive, we had no choice but to adopt a capital-intensive strategy. But at the same time, we would continue to invest in infrastructure, in education. Then in the 90s, we decided that we must move to a much more knowledge-intensive way of doing things, because we have got competitors from various parts of our region also trying to do the same thing. So we will have to be differentiated, and this is where the technology-intensive approach was adopted. And from the 80s and beyond, we have embarked on a very vigorous national computerization effort, where we would position Singapore as an intelligent island, intelligent nation. We have seen a series of versions of the ICT plan. At the same time, we will continue to enhance our transportation infrastructure, logistic infrastructure, in order to be able to make a living in this world. So I think in terms of attracting foreign investment, multinational corporations, we have done very well. Singapore became a manufacturing hub. Many companies will come to Singapore to set up world-scale production operations in pharmaceutical, in petrochemical, in disk drive, precision engineering, aerospace, maintenance, and so on and so forth. So the economy was totally transformed. Manufacturing became 25% of the GDP, and we would embrace manufacturing and services as the twin engines of growth. Well, after the year 2000, learning from the Asian financial crisis, we have to reinvent the economy again. And this is where the government embarked on the R&D strategy. We expanded the universities, we created new universities, we upgraded manpower in Singapore so that they will be able to support the increasingly more and more sophisticated operations coming into Singapore. Just to illustrate, initially we had just one university, National University of Singapore, which came about by merging Nanyang University and Singapore University. So we had one. We created Nanyang Technological University. Then, about 10 years ago, Singapore Management University, with the help of the Wharton Business School. Then, very recently, we decided that we should have another university, and this time around, it'll be in the area of technology and design. And throughout this process, this expansion phase for the tertiary education sector, we have got programs, initiatives with the global institutions. For example, we have a very successful Singapore MIT Alliance program, which initially focused on the postgraduate engineering sector, and that has been extremely successful. Up to this point in time, maybe 1,000 students have been trained at the master's level, and that provided the basis for us to go into a very aggressive Singapore MIT Alliance in research and technology, the SMART program, as part of our R&D effort. To illustrate some figures, in 1990, GDP contribution, R&D contribution to GDP was less than 1%. When we embarked on this R&D strategy, we decided that we must create more knowledge. Of course, we need to apply knowledge as well, the commercialization aspect. So over the last 20 years or so, the percentage of GDP spent on R&D has gone up consistently to now 3%. And in another 5 years, it'll be 3.5%. And this is accompanied by the reinvention of the entire university education system. And this is where the new R&D focus in Singapore, with the establishment of the Research, Innovation and Enterprise Council, chaired by the Prime Minister, has made a tremendous impact. And this includes the establishment of the National Research Foundation to do additional research in 3 areas in order to supplement all the R&D institutions that we have created over the last 15, 20 years or so. I'm referring to the Agencies on Science, Technology and Research, A*STAR, with 14 R&D institutions in genomics, in ICT, and so on and so forth. So the NRF, with the additional fund allocated, has been instrumental in bringing about further R&D in life sciences, in environmental and water technology, as well as in IDM, interactive digital media. To benefit from the investment that we have put into ICT over the last 20 years or so. So with the establishment of the RIEC, as well as NRF, we are adopting a whole of Singapore approach, involving the public sector and the private sector collaborating, so that we'll be able to address those 3 areas which are viewed as being strategically important. Let's take the case of water. Water is a very sensitive topic in Singapore because we do not have sufficient water, but we have been relying on Malaysia for the supply. And this has been quite problematic, and Singapore decided that we must be self-sufficient in water, and therefore the use of reverse osmosis in order to create new water. And now the use of new water is enjoyed by all the wafer fabrication plants in Singapore. and water technology is now being exported to elsewhere in the region. In the same way that it is true with urban solutions. We are now helping Tianjin to develop the Tianjin Eco-City. There's another new project in Guangzhou Knowledge City, building on the success of the Suzhou Industrial Park, which initially was positioned as a software transfer project. So it became a total city development project. And of course, we were involved in the Bangalore IT Park in order to provide world-class facilities for ICT companies in Bangalore. So the export of our solutions would now become a viable business proposition. What we have not done enough in Singapore is the creation of enough entrepreneurs, small companies benefiting from the huge investment that we have put into R&D. And this will be the next phase of action for the RIEC as well as NRF, with very comprehensive innovation framework in order to generate entrepreneurship. Now, let me make some comments concerning our relative focus on science and engineering and technology. The Singapore education system has been very biased towards science and technology. In other words, we are very strong in the logical left brain. But in the creative right brain, which will require a lot of stimulation, this is a recent phenomenon. It was only recently recently meaning as early as 10 years ago, that we had state-financed creative arts education. So this is a very distinctive movement from the left brain to the right brain, or should I say, the whole brain, so that we be able to bring about a fusion of arts, business, and technology in order to create new value. Now, the creative industry strategy, which I was intimately involved in, including the establishment of the Media Development Authority, will be a reflection of this kind of movement towards the fusion of left brain and right brain for new value creation. So to move one step forward, in this One North, the next generation science park, we have Biopolis, which is a cluster of R&D institutions, a cluster of R&D facilities set up by companies to do frontier work. 2,000 PhDs from all over the world are now involved in One North operation in Biopolis. The second phase development is Fusionopolis, fusion of ICT and media, including science and engineering research institutions. And the third phase, which is now being planned, is the establishment of the Mediapolis project, the third project to bring about the fusion of business, technology, and arts. So the One North is a very interesting development. It is about the establishment of a work, live, play, learn environment, because I think world-class individuals would like to operate in this kind of a very creative and very supportive cluster. So to move Singapore forward, we must continue to make it interesting, exciting. This year, we are seeing the coming on stream of 2 integrated resorts, which is a very interesting development in Singapore. Integrated resorts in Singapore means casino plus. The casino floor space is only 3% of the overall floor space of the integrated resorts. Now, this is a reflection of the change in our philosophy in terms of how we want to make a living in this world, how we want to be more flexible in order to move with global trends, in order to be able to make a living. So we are putting in a lot of investment in the software aspect, not just the hardware, not just the hard science aspect. R&D will continue to be important. Entrepreneurship will continue to be promoted. But what's important is we want to create a very, very attractive place for people to work, live, play, and learn. And this is something which I have created when I was with Ministry of Manpower. I would always say, since Singapore is small, we cannot produce enough babies. And if so, we might as well borrow other people's babies. So I think in terms of our talent attraction strategy, it has been quite aggressive. When we first started in the 60s, our population was 1 million plus. Today, we have 5 million. And the policy would continue to be, all are welcome, particularly the high-end talent. But for the low-end manual workers, etc., they can come to Singapore to work, but at the expiry of the work permit, they will have to leave. So we have got a talent management policy which is instrumental in making Singapore a very robust, attractive economic environment, a very safe place for people to sink roots and to basically participate in the growth of the innovation economy. So I'll end my comment here. Thank you.
Thank you.